Coming tonight, even though you didn't know where you were supposed to go with the letter, and I apologize for that. But you're here, and lots of people called and got information, and we're glad you're here tonight to hear what the project is all about. And tonight, everybody in the audience will have an opportunity to speak, and I ask if you would clearly address the, actually Deanna here, she's taking down information who speaks and has questions, so we can get back to you later if we can't answer them tonight. We do have the Kalamazoo County Road Commission here, which is their project that we partnered with them. And we also have our engineer here to talk about the sanitary portion. We have one of the engineers from Kalamazoo County Road Commission, Jim Hoekstra. He will be able to give you some information, as well as Steve Carlisle, who is the engineer for the Road Commission. Every question I say, I'm sorry, and I'm getting there.
Okay.
I saved the best for last.
Got it.
And Terry Scheck from Rural Development is here. There are many options that she will explain that are available to low income and seniors that can make this project as painless as possible. And I'll just give you an overview of a 10,000 foot view of what the project is, and I'll let Steve, after I'm done talking, speak. What we have done is that the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County has plans in 2019 to take from the intersection of G Avenue and Riverview and totally reshape, resurface, reconstruct Riverview Drive to Brackett Street. That means taking out the pavement, putting in curb and gutter, storm sewer, and making that road so much better, because it's probably the worst primary road that we have in Cooper Township at this time. And saying that, with all the expense, it was smart to partner with the Road Commission. The township is putting up the funds to put in the sanitary sewer system. And as will be explained to you in more detail later, you as residents that live on Riverview Drive are not required to connect for 10 years. And it'll be explained to you the cost and the different options that you have to hook up when and what the approximate cost will be. And we have, which will be explained to you in Steve's presentation, there was 4 large contractors that bid the project, and it went with low bid. And our costs are pretty close to concrete, but never until something comes out, whether dewatering or find a large boulder in the middle of where we have to put the sewer main, then there may be some additional costs, but it's not likely. So everybody's questions will be answered tonight, even if it can't be answered by me or one of the engineers. If it's how to pay for it, when they want to hook up, those types of things. Those people are all here tonight on the sanitary, and to explain the road project to you as well. So I guess I ask is let the presentation go, and then after everybody's had a chance to speak, there's nobody that will not be heard tonight, so we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and any concerns that you may have, we'll be happy to note as well. So Steve, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Okay. I was told earlier that I didn't speak loud enough. Can everybody hear me okay in the back? Yes? Okay. Instead of using the microphone, I'll just speak up. To follow up with what Jeff said, we'll go through a presentation. I'll talk about the Road Commission project first. I'll hand it over to my colleague Paul to talk about the details of the sanitary sewer project and what the township's proposing. Terry from Road Development will talk a little bit about the programs. I think there's a pamphlet going around that talks about some of those with the eligibility requirements and that sort of thing. And then we'll open up to general questions, and we've got some general Q&A. I'll kind of go through some of the FAQs that the Road Commission typically receives on these types of projects. We'll open up to general questions for the audience, and that's what Jeff was referring to. You have your time to kind of ask questions about that. Then we also brought a set of plans, actually 2 sets of plans. So if you have specific questions about your property, is the street coming out, or what's the drainage going to be like in front of my house, those will be best handled afterwards, so we can really get into the plans and look at the details. Okay, so we'll jump right into it. We already did introductions there, thank you, Jeff. So as Jeff mentioned, the road commission has a 5-year capital improvement plan. The Riverview Drive project was scheduled for 2019, so it's been talked about for many years now. As you know, probably all live out there, you understand the condition of the road. It's deteriorating. We have some big time drainage issues out there, which I'll get into more detail in just a little bit. Coupled with all of that, major road improvements were necessary. We can't just do a mill and fill out here to correct some of those problems. Ultimately, in working through that process, the road commission meets annually with the townships throughout the county to talk about their 5-year program, to talk about what the local road projects the townships want to undertake, and see how we can partner there. As part of this project, the township, obviously there's been a lot of talk about sewers over the last few years and maybe beyond, about sewers in this area. The township recognizes an opportunity to partner with the road commission in this instance. If they're going to tear out some asphalt, pay for some of the asphalt, makes a lot of sense to get the pipe in the ground while we're doing that work, rather than 5-10 years from now, when it will be borne entirely by the township and the residents along that route. So we've been partnering with the township. The road commission has partnered with the township over the last 6 or 12 months. It's been for a while now, about designing this project, working out all the details on how we're going to do this. One thing I forgot to note earlier, we bid the project collectively, so we have one contractor working on it. It's really important when it comes to coordination. One group is responsible for all the construction activities, so we don't have a lot of pointing on who's responsible or whose problem certain things are. Diving into the details of the road piece, the existing road section does vary a little bit through there, and just to reiterate, we have a full reconstruction, so complete pavement removal from G Avenue to Brackett. That's where the sewer's going in, that's where storm sewer's going in. We're also reconstructing Brackett between Riverview and Keys Drive, and that's, again, storm sewer and sanitary sewer along that route. The sanitary sewer connects in at Keys and Brackett. It's already an existing manhole there, which Paul will get into in a little bit. And then our storm sewer outlet runs into the school property. We have a negotiated easement with Parchment Schools. It's already an existing outlet. We're just going to improve that area. North of Brackett on Riverview Drive will be more of a mill and resurface. Okay, we're not going to do a full-blown reconstruction there. It's not going to be curb and gutter. There's not going to be storm sewer improvements in that section. It goes all the way up to Mount Olivet Road. Okay, so it's just shy of a mile, I believe, the total length. The existing road surface varies in width. We call it out as 27 feet of existing paved surface. Again, that may vary a bit. There's some shoulders in some areas and not in others. The proposed road section measures 33 feet in width from back of curb to back of curb. So again, curb and gutter between G Avenue and Brackett. We have 11.5-foot paved lanes and 3-foot paved shoulders, and then the curb and gutter is 2 foot. That's a standard curb section. Curb head's about 6 inches tall. Okay. I won't get into details on the pavement section, but ultimately we've got 6 inches of asphalt out there, so a standard heavy-duty commercial type application for the road commission. This section also shows the sanitary sewer has to run down the center of the roadway. That's a county policy. And then we have storm sewer that runs under the west curb line. That also is county policy. And we've got the details in the plans. I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics, but both of those pipes actually get fairly deep on Riverview Drive based on just how the layouts are and where the outlets are. But if you have questions about that, there were some questions earlier about the depth and basement drains and so forth, and Paul's got a lot of details about that later in the presentation. But we can look specifically too at the plans if we need to later on. Also, as part of the project, we have a new traffic signal at Riverview and G Avenue. So we've got an improved lane configuration. We're cleaning up this area. Each leg of the intersection will have a dedicated left turn lane. And then northbound Riverview at G will also have a right turn lane. So north is up here in this drawing. This was the Speedway gas station there for those locals. One thing to note, so mast arm, we're going to have the regular mast arms that you've seen throughout the county, LED traffic signals, pedestrian push button signals activated and so forth. We've got crosswalks on 3 legs of the intersection, we are going to eliminate the one on the east side. And that's largely due to the right-of-way restrictions we have, really, in all the quadrants, but specifically here in the northeast quadrant. Those heavy dashed lines represent the right-of-way. We don't have a lot of room to get traffic, pedestrian traffic around that corner while maintaining an adequate curb radius. That's a pretty tight curve. We've probably taken that quite a bit over the years, and so we want to provide as big enough radius as possible. So this still allows pedestrian traffic to get north-south on Riverview. We just have to use the left, or the west leg of that intersection. Oops, sorry, Steve. Oh,
I'm not sure what happened.
that's all right. And I think that covers pretty much everything on the traffic signal piece. I did skip over on G Avenue. There is a small piece of storm sewer, so we have an existing storm sewer outlet down G, as you know, G Avenue drops off there. We're gonna rebuild to Keys Avenue in that general area, so that will get resurfaced as well. Obviously, the north leg will get resurfaced and a portion of the intersection, but we are not repaving the south or east leg of the intersection. Yes, ma'am?
Are you taking more lawn? I'm in the top corner left.
Not left. We'll have to take a look at that. That is wider existing, so I don't know that there's as much widening there. We're not widening significantly throughout the job, but it might be commensurate. In the 2-lane section, we're probably widening about 3 foot on average throughout the job length, give or take. Again, it's gonna vary on the existing pavement width. We can look specifically though afterwards if you'd like, and try to get a better handle on that for you.
All right.
You're up.
So just hold this now.
Yep, the green light turns on.
Can you hear me better?
Soft spoken.
So I'm the engineer who's been handling the sanitary sewer with the township. You see in this map, this is the corner of Riverview and Brackett, just one small snippet from the whole plan set. But sanitary sewer down the middle of the street, there's an extension up Brackett. This is a little off kilter, but this is kind of to the northeast, and we're providing for future extension there. But the sanitary sewer will flow downhill, down to Brackett, and then downhill on Brackett, as we mentioned, to the existing sanitary. All the sewer leads that we're putting in, the sanitary sewer that we're installing now is gonna be adequate to be, unless you have an outrageously deep basement for some reason, all basements should be serviceable by the sanitary sewer. You're not required to connect at that depth, but it will be available, so if you have laundry in your basement or whatever else if you want to improve your basement, you want to add a restroom or something, and you will not need a sub pump in your basement anymore. Laterals will be extended to each buildable parcel, and then sidewalk repairs where we're installing the sanitary sewer leads, as well as any major tripping hazards on the road. If there's a spot in front of your house that's heated or something, where we'll replace those sections to get that flooded back out. This is the existing sanitary sewer map. The red portion is where we're installing sanitary sewer right now. The orange with the green dots, that's who else in the area has sanitary sewer now, to give you an idea of the size of the project and how much, who else around you has sanitary sewer. Do you want to talk a little about the detours here?
Sure, so because of the road project with the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer, between Brackett and G Avenue, we have to close the roadway completely, and really we're gonna run that all the way up to Mount Olivet because of all the construction activities. So our detour route runs from G Avenue up to Mount Olivet, is that eastern loop there, I guess. That will be in effect during the entire construction process, which we'll get into schedule here in the next slide, but looking at roughly mid-June to November, okay? We have been talking with the Parchment School District about our schedule. Obviously, this is pretty impactful with the elementary school close by. So we have stated the contractor can't start before the end of school, which is June 17th. I think that's the first day we can start construction. And we have to have bracket back open and paved by the start of school, which is beginning of September. And then there will be activities after that on Riverview, but they'll be able to use Keys Drive for access to the school, so it's not a big burden for the school to accommodate that for us.
Also might want to mention that traffic will be open to all of you that live on that street at that time too. Emergency vehicles and everything, you'll be able to get in and out. You might have a couple of minutes of inconvenience if they're right in front of your driveway, but you will be able to get in and out on a daily basis.
Yeah, obviously, we have to maintain local traffic. When I say detours, closed to traffic, it's through traffic. So anyone traveling from south on Riverview going north past Mount Olivet should take the detour. If you live on the job, obviously you have to have access. We have to maintain emergency access. We talked about that quite a bit at the earlier meeting. There were some concerns about, elderly or, whatever it might be. We have to allow for that. That's always the case on all of our projects. This is no different. We'll have an inspector on site, so when we have certain things pop up or we have emergencies, we'll be able to respond very quickly. There will be times where there'll be some inconveniences. There'll be piles of material, there'll be equipment in front of your driveway, we'll pour curb, you can't drive over it for a few days, things like that. We'll try to work with you as best we can or give you a heads up on schedule so that those inconveniences can be minimized. So bear with us on that, but by and large, you'll be able to navigate the site or get pretty familiar. There's enough side streets where we can come in and come off of Keys, for instance, that'll save a lot of grief, I think. What's that?
Rosedale.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
As Steve mentioned, the construction, there's a limitation on our contractor that says they can't start earlier than June 17th. Make sure school's out, no more bus traffic, and then we start construction. We have a pre-construction meeting coming up here, and we'll get that schedule tightened up. That information will be made available on the Road Commission's website through their RCKC Connect. And I'll show you where to find that and sign up for that information in a little bit. But bracket, as we mentioned, has to be open before school. The remainder of the project is required to be open to traffic prior to November 1st. It's possible that that November 1st open to traffic date doesn't allow for complete reestablishment of the grass outside. So we've got one element of the project, the turf establishment portion, where we're planting grass that may extend into spring, but the road will be done before winter. Obviously, as I said, the road commission will share more of the schedule and keep everybody up to date as things progress. It's possible we could run into some delays, weather, schedule conflicts, unforeseen sort of circumstances could push stuff out past November 1st, hopefully not, but just there are some things that sometimes cause delays for these projects. The road commission opened bids on May 28th. Last week, Tuesday. And we had 4 bids. The high bid was Dunnigan Brothers at $3.4 million. The low bid, Hoffman Brothers at $2.7. Hoffman Brothers was the low parent bidder, and the project was awarded to Hoffman. The breakdown on that, the road construction portion was about $1.8 million to do the curb and gutter, the storm sewer, rebuild the road. The traffic signal at Riverview G was $235,000, and then the sanitary sewer construction cost balance there was $703,000 to install the sanitary sewer. For the sanitary sewer connection, as Jeff said, the township has a 10-year connection window, so there's no mandatory connection before 10 years. You're welcome to connect when the sewer's done, up until that 10-year time. The cost breakdown, $45 per front foot for your property, so how long is your property along the road times $45, plus $8,410. The average property is 77 feet wide, I think. If you do that math, 77 times 45 plus 8,400, you're at about $11,740 on average. Some properties are less, some properties are more. And then there's also a private sewer connection cost. That's not the sewer construction portion, but that's the cost that is unique to each parcel, each home. It just depends on your configuration, how much that costs.
We do have copies of the handout of what you're seeing today too, so.
Well,
And it's on your website,
we have a
correct?
few copies, and then it is all already on the website, so you can get to this right from the website.
To give you an idea on that breakdown, depending on whether you have a 4 or 6 inch extension from your home, a lot of people are gonna be 4. You're looking at $20 to $50 a foot, depending on, again, on depth, how complicated it is to get sanitary sewer out to the connection point. There's a cost of abandoning your current septic system. The township and the health department kind of require you backfill your septic tank, and if you have dry wells, backfill your dry wells, so that it's especially for safety. We don't want to see any collapses later on. You've got this big void in the ground, the concrete falls apart eventually, then you got a sinkhole. We don't want any of that, so just backfilling that with sand, and then going on from there. There's also a $75 permit fee, and that's for the sewer authority to come out, inspect, and do some administration of your connection. If for whatever reason you weren't able to connect via gravity, that is just downhill, let it flow, and you need a pump between $10,000 and $18,000, we estimate, if you had to have that sort of system. And again, I don't think anybody on Riverview, the way it's laid out, it's designed, the way everything is, I don't think anybody needs that in this area. Especially for the first year of connection, coordinating with your neighbors. Maybe your neighbor already looked up a cost, you know who they're gonna contact. More people speaking with the same contractor, getting a group rate, it's gonna save you on mobilization of contractor. Just like if you call the plumber or electrician, they're gonna charge you $100, making up numbers, to come out to your house just to figure out what's wrong. And then they'll give you a price from there, right? Same thing with any sort of underground contractor or plumber who's gonna do your sanitary sewer connection. If you can save on the trip out, they're there to do several properties at the same time. Hopefully there's some value there that you can capture. So there's several different ways to pay for your connection. This is the connection costs that are paid to connect the sanitary sewer. We've got a cash plan, just pay up front. The $11,400 or whatever it is for your particular property. We have everybody calculated out up front if you want to know what your connection is likely going to cost. Give or take a couple of dollars, but pretty close. You can come up and find that out. We can look up your property and tell you what it's going to be. The township is also offering an installment plan where you pay 50% upfront, 50% down payment, and then a 5-year assessment. Pay for the rest. That'd be 5 annual payments and a 5% interest rate. I've got kind of a breakdown on what that looks like depending on when you make your connection. We also have Carrie Sheck from USDA, and she's going to talk at the end of our talk about some low-income assistance related, some ways that, especially for low-income folks, helps you afford this thing.
I have a question.
Can we hold till the end, ma'am, please?
What's that?
Can we hold till the end till he gives his presentation?
I wanted to know if the sewers are in the front yard or the backyard. That's just.
The sewers are going down the center of the road.
No, I
You
mean,
said
from
they're
the
going down
house.
the middle of Riverview Drive. It just depends on your house. We don't know. So it'll be house to house. Some people are in the back, some people are in the front. And I've got a couple of different sketches here actually on how that might work.
Okay.
So if you have a basement, first floor service, and your septic system is in the back of the house. So if you can see here, this is kind of section view, sanitary sewer here, the road lies, and the sanitary sewer's in the middle of the road. This portion of the sewer is gonna be the portion that we construct right now. And then from here to your home, however far that is, that's the private section, that's the private piece of the puzzle that I was talking about earlier. And if your septic system, for instance, is in the back of your home, but your basement is unfinished, there may be an opportunity to simply redirect the sewer inside the home, out the front, and then you don't have to jog all the way around the house. If for whatever reason your basement's finished, or that's inconvenient, it can also be routed around the house and out to the sewer. So our inspector's gonna work with everybody during the job to try and get that sanitary sewer lead pointed in a direction that makes sense to minimize the distance that your sewer has to get installed in order to make your connection. Another detail just showing if you had a basement, if you wanted to connect the basement level in order to abandon your sump pump in your basement that's ejecting your washing machine water or whatever it's doing down there. You could easily just connect to the basement and get rid of the maintenance and stuff on that pump. Couple more options if, for instance, your septic tank is on the side of your house, a lot easier to make a connection. Come out. I know that there are several properties along Riverview where your septic system is in the front. It's very convenient for making your connection, and you should limit your costs that way. This is the detail of how you might accomplish that pump system that I had on the previous slide. Sewer connection costs. There is a front fee and the benefit fee, $44 per front foot and $8,410. Those are the two components of your connection. Those costs increase at a rate of 3% per year. In 2030, it's going to cost a lot more to build sanitary sewer. So those connection costs increase. As I said, they're just reflective of increasing construction costs over time. So a few scenarios. Cash payment. Next year, sewer's done. You're going to connect in the spring, summer, whenever. You're going to pay for the average parcel at 77 feet. You're paying $330 for the front foot, $8,410 for your benefit fees, so a total cost of $11,740. If you wait 10 years, you connect in 2030, that cost goes up, and you're paying a total of $15,800. If you want to take advantage of the township's financing option, 50% down, 5 years at 5% in 2020, you're at the $5,870 for your down payment, 50%. And then year 2021, you make a payment, 2022, 23, 24, 25, for a total payment of $12,327, which is $587 more than if you just pay cash up front. That's the sacrifice you make with taking advantage of that payment over time. In 2030, the down payment's again 50% of the $15,894, and then your payments are $19, $18, $17, $16, $15, and the total interest you're going to pay is almost $800. To give you an idea of what it costs, if you haven't looked into this recently, I know there's one of the reasons that the township is providing a 10-year connection. You have 10 years to connect just because they know that some people have just installed the leaf system for their septic system, and that was a big cost that you had very recently. So they want to give you some time to, if rather than giving you another big bill right up front, we're going to give you some time. The replacement system, virgin soils, I've got $3,600 on here. The health department was here earlier today, and they gave us some more updated information. They said that they're seeing these replacement systems, and I say virgin soils, that's an area where there has never been a septic drain field before. He said that they're seeing prices more than $6,000 to $8,000 range for just a new drain field in an area there's never been a drain field before. If you have a small lot, or you've already had 2 drain fields, they both failed, you don't have any room for another drain field. You may have to completely excavate all that off, drain, clean fill. That gets much more expensive. He thought that that was more like 10 to 15,000 to do that work. Could be more. That dirt that's hauled off has to go to a special landfill, and just very expensive. The third thing that a few people in the area have seen, and I don't think anybody on Riverview has a mound system right now, that's kind of a system of last resort, but if you have to put in a mound system, 9 to 17.5, I think Vern was saying that price is probably a little low too, that we're showing up here, so, those costs. If your septic system fails, you gotta pay it now. There's no option, think about it or budget for it. If you wanna stay in the house, you need a working septic system, so, this gives you some time to plan. This gives you an alternative when we're putting in sanitary sewer now. Existing on-site septic systems, there's never been sewer in this area. We had the health department pull records for all the sanitary, or all the septic systems along Riverview and Keys. This area is old. There are 90% of the systems are over 10 years old now. Obviously in 10 years, 90% are gonna be over 20 years old. 75% are gonna be over 30 years old. And there are 27% of the total properties, 45 of them, they're so old the health department doesn't have records. At some point, you're kind of on borrowed time as it is. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. Talking about construction site safety, I'm gonna take over.
Okay, so jump back into a few last tips here, I guess, before we open it up. We'll talk about USDA, I guess, and then we'll open up the questions. Just a reminder, construction, there's gonna be a lot of activities here. This is a pretty major project with storm sewer, sanitary sewer, and full road reconstruction. It is limited to about 3,000 feet in length. Just be very careful, it takes time. Give those guys a little bit of space, certainly when you're out and about. If you live on the job, a lot of interesting things happen. You know you wanna take a look, keep your distance, talk to our staff, things like that, so that we know everyone's safe on the job, both for the contractor, our team, and for yourself, obviously. Asphalt pavements, just a quick reminder, depending on when we pave, it likely will be a little bit later in the year, so it won't be so hot, but when it's really hot out, and if we pave a road, cars drive on it, especially when you turn, leaves marks, it can damage the road surface. We wanna try to avoid that as much as possible, so keep that in mind when you see the pavers out there, not only on your road, but all the other ones. Typically, we do a pretty good job of trying to route people around that and avoid that issue. It's especially important, especially when we pave your driveway. You don't want marks in that, it's really hard to fix. Anything we do afterwards sometimes doesn't do a whole lot of good on the appearance. So once we put it down, that's the best opportunity to leave it and have it look really good for you. So when we talk about staying off it, or when we have communication with our inspector, just try to heed that advice as best as possible. Alright, so this is frequently asked questions the road commission receives quite often on their projects, so we thought we'd throw these up here and just kind of run through them real quick. It might answer some of the questions you folks have. We already talked about access available. Jeff kind of touched on it, I touched on it. Access will be maintained at all times. You may have to go around the block if you're coming from the south, and you might need to come in from the north to get to your site. But it'll be a pretty quick little, just using the local streets in the area. And then emergency situations will always be addressed on site. We'll have at least one person. I've got their contact information later on in the presentation. But in some cases, we'll have 2 people on site. So we will be accessible whenever you have questions about that or you need special requests. Hours of operation, we'll find out more on Wednesday, the pre-construction meeting. We've done a lot of work with Hoffman Brothers, who was awarded the contract. Very reputable company, we've had a lot of great success with them. Typically, Monday through Friday, 7 to 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock. They typically don't burn the night oil on projects. It's Michigan, if weather impacts us, they've got to squeeze more work into less time. So they could work weekends. They don't usually start out on a job working weekends, though they try to avoid that as much as possible. So if we see any updates to that, it'll certainly be available through the RCKC Connect, which we'll get into in just a little bit. Garbage pickup, mail delivery. Garbage pickup will have to be maintained as typical. Mail delivery sometimes depends on the contractor. I don't know what they plan. Sometimes they maintain it right at your site and have the mail carrier drive through the construction zone. Sometimes they take all the mailboxes and put them in one location at either end of the job, so that the mail carrier can just drop them all right there. It requires the individuals, you folks, to have to go to that spot to get your mail, but then they don't have to maintain that mail carrier traffic. I don't know what they're gonna prefer on that, and obviously we'll keep you updated if there's any major changes on that. I did get a question earlier about mailbox posts. Somebody had a, recently painted or upgraded mailbox post. Can we save those? We can save them. They do have to conform to the RCKC policy. But if it's something that we want to keep, they'll probably lay it down. They may try to maintain it through construction. If not, they'll put up a temporary post, put in your existing one at the end of the job. Okay, so that way it doesn't get damaged by construction traffic. Excuse me. Can we park on the road shoulder? No. Try to avoid doing that if at all possible. Obviously, we've got construction equipment, pipe going in the ground. We don't need a car parked there that we don't have access to and is in the way of our operation. You really should try to stay on your own property as much as possible. If you have a party scheduled, graduation party, something like that this summer, and just notify our staff. We'll try to work with you as best as possible to allow that to occur, and we'll know we need to get our stuff done before or after that particular event. Again, just advanced communication. We'll try to deal with those as best we can. We can't, stop work in certain areas necessarily, but we can phase our work to maybe accommodate some special requests like that. Lawn and shoulder restoration, typically it's going to be back to the way it was. It's a little different on the south end of the job where we have curb and gutter. You don't have curb there now. So you'll have concrete curbs there, and then grass, topsoil and grass. We're not going to have any gravel outside the concrete curb and gutter. The north section, so north of Brackett, will be more or less similar to what you see now, other than it'll have just dedicated shoulders. There'll be gravel shoulders, and then just slopes to tie into the existing ditches and whatnot that we already have out there. What kind of delays can we expect? So it's going to vary on the activity. When they're putting the sanitary sewer in at its deepest point of 15 to 18 feet deep, something like that, it's going to be a big hole. We're not going to be able to drive through Riverview Drive. So where they're at, you're probably going to have to go around the block to get to your house. If they're right in front of your house that particular evening, you may have to park over at the neighbors, or we'll try to accommodate a location so you don't have to walk several blocks. But usually they move right along, and it's only going to be a day or two of impact in those certain situations. We do have storm sewer to put in. That's pretty deep, that's pretty involved, so that's going to take some time as well. Usually they're done in separate operations. And then curb and gutter typically is one of the bigger issues. Before the curb, we can't drive on it for several days, so that's going to limit access to your driveway as well. Again, we can gap out driveways if we know of a special occasion, something like that, and come back in later. But those are going to be probably your biggest issues you see, short of just normal construction activities and construction vehicles dropping off materials that might cause some delays. Again, it's difficult to anticipate. Typically, for a job like this, it's going to be